The MLB season is winding down, and we have a crazy weekend in the NFL and college football. Stay tuned for more. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. I'm Josh Kalb, joined by Noah Miller and Bryan Bauer. We were supposed to have a guest, the NKU men's soccer head coach, Tom Poitras, and he might join us later on, but he couldn't make it with us today at this time. So we're just going to start with some NFL football. And guys, it's getting really interesting. But I want to start off with one of the biggest stories, which isn't a game. It's actually the Davante Adams situation, where he is after the Raiders-Chiefs game on Monday night, he pushed the cameraman on the sideline and is charged with assault from that. Who knows where that one's going to go?
Yeah, there's a bunch of jokes going around because the Raiders are known for having felons on their team and just having people that get in trouble. And so they're held to a certain standard, kind of. But no matter how mad or upset you are, granted, Davante Adams is on a new team, new quarterback, and really not to the best start he wants to be at. But still, there's no excuse for those actions.
Yeah, I don't think losing is an excuse to get so angry you want to harm somebody. I mean, I don't know if it was just like a reaction because someone just ran in front of him, and I guess there's no more reactions to push somebody. It's just kind of odd because I don't feel like Davante Adams is not typically known as that kind of person to be a jerk.
He's usually always been laid back, and obviously that was a tough loss because his route running really is usually the best in the NFL, but in that final drive at the end of the game, it wasn't. Him and Hunter Renfrow ran into each other, and that ended the game right there. So you can see the frustrations. I can kind of see it from both sides because as someone who's been on the sideline for some games, it's just an unwritten rule. Media don't get in the way of a player, especially in that situation. Assault, I don't know, might be a little far, but I could see Davante Adams getting fined or even suspended for a game.
Yeah, I don't really see suspended. Fined for sure. He's definitely going to be fined by the NFL, but suspension, that might be a little too harsh, but I don't know. And like you said, Davante Adams really isn't known for being a type of dude that just like pushes people over and like is just like a meathead, because he really is like a really nice dude. And even before this game, there was a Packers fan in a Davante Adams jersey holding up a sign saying "I miss you," and he was like paying respect to him, being like "I miss you too." So it's just not like him.
And that should be an interesting thing to watch for in the future, because the Raiders really need, after some of their losses early this season, they really need some wins in the next few games. And so his suspension, if he gets suspended, could be huge for the Raiders. Another, some situation bringing tension in the NFL is the roughing the passer calls. We saw it on Sunday as the Falcons pretty much didn't even have a chance to win the game against the Buccaneers because Grady Jarrett was called for a roughing the passer on Tom Brady. And then on Monday night, Chris Jones was called for a roughing the passer on Derek Carr. I understand protecting the quarterback from situations we've seen like Tua and other players, but it kind of ruins the game at the same time.
I think it's similar to college football and targeting, where they really don't know how to define a roughing the passer. What is it defined as? Because there's so many different examples people use. I mean, the Tom Brady one, that wasn't roughing the passer. The one against the Chiefs player, that really wasn't roughing the passer. They were just tackling the quarterback. And obviously people are screaming it was rigged because Tom Brady got hit. But certain quarterbacks, too, I think, get more favoritism with that call. It just, nothing about it seems regulated or normal, and it's just frustrating to watch. Like, nothing. They need to firmly define what is a roughing the passer.
Yeah, and if you really look at some of the hits that some quarterbacks take, for like Joe Burrow when they played the Eagles a couple years back, nothing was called on that when it should have been roughing the passer. The hit on Tua, I feel like that's more of a roughing the passer than any of the calls that have been in the past couple days.
Especially because he actually got injured from it. Tom Brady just got right up.
Yeah.
So did Derek Carr.
Yeah, and a lot of Tom Brady haters are going to be like, whoa, well, he wanted the flag. Deep down, he probably did want the flag because that's more yards.
Sure.
And you're going to win the game.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, I don't know. The roughing the passer calls, like Bryan said, what is roughing the passer? Because you can tackle somebody. That's roughing the passer.
Yeah.
So
there's just no definition of it, and there's no consistency within calling or making that call. It's just kind of like targeting, or in basketball, charge or
the charge.
block.
That's the rough.
I mean, there's a lot of situations, and I don't think I think people would dislike it less if there was just some consistency to it and it was defined.
I think that's the biggest thing is consistency. You don't want to cost people the games because of just a ref looks at it a different way than another ref.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing too, because these calls aren't really like, oh, it's in the first quarter, second quarter. No, these calls are like making games. They're changing the outcome of games.
A quarterback who has dealt with a lot of these hits, Joe Burrow, him and his Bengals are in action this weekend against the Saints. Burrow and Jamar Chase are back in Louisiana for the first time since they played at LSU. And, of course, there's been the drama of, can Zach Taylor make the right play calls? What is he doing on the offensive end, especially after the loss to the Ravens on Sunday night? And this game should answer a lot of those questions.
Yeah, some Bengals fans, they're going to be like, oh, we need to get rid of Zach Taylor or just have the offensive coordinator call the plays. But it's kind of interesting to see Joe Burrow and some of the players like rally behind Zach Taylor and be like, I have your back. Because really, at the end of the day, a franchise and a football team should be like together and they shouldn't be separated, because that's when you have issues. That's when you start going on losing streaks, and it's just not really good to be like not connected. But they seem like they're really connected. Don't really know what's going on because we're not behind the scenes, but it should be interesting to see this weekend.
I think that's one thing I definitely can compliment Zach Taylor on is the culture. They generally seem to care and love for each other. And with the Bengals, there's no simple answer. I think the offensive line's playing better. They finally got the run game going. I think a big issue really right now is adjusting to the game and adjusting quickly. With the Ravens game, we saw them kind of adjust with the run game, but then there were some questionable play calls with shovel pass on 3rd and 1, a Philly special there on the goal line stand. From what I've heard, Zach Taylor said multiple people all have to do with play calling. Maybe there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Maybe they need some stability with just one play caller. The Saints, this was one where I think they need to score 30 points. The Saints defense, they're not like amazing by any way, but this Saints offense knows how to score points. It doesn't matter who's the quarterback. And Andy Dalton is 2-0. I really don't want to see Andy Dalton go 3-0 against the Bengals. This is a game they need to win, get right, and the next 5 I think should be winnable. They have the Falcons too. If they slow start and they struggle to score and they only score 20, I'm gonna have some more questions about how this offense is run.
After their first few losses, there's not really a game now where you can lose, because for momentum, but then also just for statistically going into the playoffs. So we have just under a minute left to go in the segment, and I want to get your all's picks before we end. So between the Bengals and the Saints, Brian, who do you have?
I think it's Bengals easily. I think they win.
It should be the Bengals, but I could easily see the Saints upsetting, but I'm taking the Bengals.
And I'm going to have to go with the Bengals, too. Again, this is a must-win situation. Jamar Chase is having a lot of family there, and from Louisiana. Joe Burrow's he's back in Louisiana as well.
And the last time they played in that stadium, we all know what happened.
Yeah.
So
maybe we'll see some sparks again.
The Saints tend to bring that to the game, and a team usually something you only see out of AFC North teams. But Bengals and Saints, a big game this week. We talked about some professional football here, but we have some college football for you after this. It's going to be an exciting weekend of games. Stay tuned for more. This is the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. Welcome back, everyone, to the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. We hope you enjoyed our last segment on NFL, kind of switching it up from just talking about the games to some of the surrounding news in the league. And this is probably one of the best weekends all year in college football. There's about 5 or 6 ranked games going on, including one of probably the biggest in the country, as Alabama visits the Volunteers of Tennessee. That might be one of the best games all year.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how Tennessee plays against Alabama. I think this is a very big test to see, are they where they want to be? Are they legit? What they might need to work on. And with Bryce being questionable, I'm very curious to see how the game is coached with a backup quarterback. I could see this game either being close, but I could also see Alabama just winning by 3 touchdowns. I don't know what to expect of this Tennessee team. I know they played a decent Pittsburgh team, but I really don't know what to think. I know they have a high-powered offense, so maybe we'll see if Alabama's defense is as good as they think it is.
Alabama, a player to watch for on defense, is what should be a Heisman candidate, Will Anderson. He's just been a monster for 2 years straight. And Tennessee, like you mentioned, has one of the best offenses in the country. Their quarterback, Hendon Hooker, is in the Heisman watch, and they're averaging over 350 yards total per game. They lead the country in total yardage and passing yardage, and it will be something to watch for on how Alabama can handle that.
Yeah, I think I would like to see how their secondary handles these explosive wide receivers. If they do that and they try to force Tennessee to run the ball, I think Tennessee's going to have a long day.
Penn State visits Michigan, a top 10 matchup. Michigan dominated their first few games, but some of those were just some of the smaller FBS or even FCS opponents. One of their biggest tests by far this season so far. Penn State, who kind of struggled a little bit at times this season in certain games, visit the Wolverines, who are rolling right now.
Yeah, I know they haven't played a lot of strong teams, the Wolverines, but I think they're still pretty solid, and especially that Penn State is traveling to Michigan. That's one of the best arenas, one of the best crowds out there. I personally think that just Penn State's still trying to figure out who they are, what they have, and kind of an identity. I think Michigan's going to win comfortably here. I think Penn State might be a little overrated because Penn State and Michigan, they both played kind of weaker opponents. I know they played Auburn at Auburn, and that's always a good stadium, but Auburn's just not that good this year.
Michigan is really good defensively. They lost Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajobo, two of the top defensive players in the country last season, and now they're just running through teams with two different quarterbacks, Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. Jim Harbaugh, he got Michigan to the playoffs for the first time last season, and he knows how to beat some of these teams. He upset Ohio State last season, and I'm sure he won't have any trouble with this one.
Yeah, I think he's finally built that culture and the way he wants to recruit and fill it in. I don't think they're ever going to have like a rebuilding year. I think they're finally going to be able to at least compete with Ohio State for the Big Ten. I know they've probably really been one of the only ones other than Penn State, but I think this is another, big test for Harbaugh to see, can he get to the playoffs again? Can he really be that coach that Michigan is paying him to be?
Yeah, this is going to be a good test for Michigan, especially with the Big Ten, the way that's set up. Michigan, this is probably their biggest matchup besides whenever they play Ohio State. So this matchup can determine whether they beat Ohio State or not.
Oh, yeah, this is huge. And even for the playoff committee in the future, even though it's early on, they're going to look back at this game to see what happens. It doesn't matter if Michigan beats Ohio State or if they lose. This game is going to be something the playoff committee looks at. If you told me before the season that this would be one of the top games, Oklahoma State at TCU, if you told me that before, I'm sure if anyone told you that as well, I don't think we would have believed them.
I actually kind of expected TCU to have a rough season and for them to come out here undefeated, beating Kansas, which kind of disappointed me because I really like seeing Kansas go undefeated. No, I would never expect it. I could see Oklahoma State being one of the top ones, but not TCU. Sonny Dykes has done a really good job getting this team ready. They're playing a high-powered offense. I never expected a TCU. They used to be, I think, a more kind of defensively minded program. Oklahoma State is a defensively minded program. I think we get to finally see what's better, offense, defense. They say defense wins championships, but if you don't score 40-plus points, you're not winning anything. Yeah. So I think this is another one, too, that will determine who is the Big 12 champion, right? This is probably a preview for the championship game for all we know.
And just like the Big Ten, this is literally the same exact type of game for the Big 12. Because Baylor has kind of fallen off since the beginning of the season. Oklahoma got destroyed by TCU and destroyed by Kansas. I know they have some problems at quarterback. Texas, with the loss to Alabama and then the loss of their quarterback, just kind of slowed things down for the Longhorns. So right now it's up for grabs, and these two are the two teams that could take it.
Yeah, with Texas, actually, I think their quarterback came back, and they looked so strong against Oklahoma. I think Texas might have a small run with that. If they have that quarterback and he stays healthy, I would not be shocked that they could make it to the Big 12 championship game. Unless, one of those teams stays undefeated, then Texas is outside looking in.
An SEC game, I know we just talked about two different conferences, but the biggest SEC game of the week besides Alabama and Tennessee has to be this SEC matchup as the Bulldogs of Mississippi State, ranked at number 16, visit Kentucky at Kroger Field, one of the biggest games for the Wildcats all season. Will Levis, who was out last game against South Carolina as they fell to the Gamecocks, looks to return and should bring that high-powered offense back and lead his team to the win against the Bulldogs.
I think this game is very important for the fact that they kind of need to win to almost save their season. They want to get to that 10 wins. They need to win this game. That loss against South Carolina, there's no excuse for it. South Carolina is not a good team. I know their quarterback's injured, and hopefully he comes back. I know he had NFL looks, and it sucks anytime when a quarterback like that gets injured. You love seeing the high talent on the field. Mississippi State, they're a high-powered offense. I don't know how I feel about Mike Leach's coaching and the way that team is, but Kentucky's defense plays decent enough. I think they are in this game the whole way through.
And all around, Kentucky just did play well against South Carolina. They should have won against Ole Miss. They just did play well against South Carolina. Their defense is what they've always been known for. And with Kaya Sharon, the backup, for actually a true freshman, coming in for Will Levis to lead that offense, he didn't even really struggle that badly. It was just an all-around bad scheming on both offense and defense. So now that they get some pieces back, I'm sure they really, like you said, they really need this one for a chance at a good bowl game or even a chance at the SEC championship.
Okay, Josh, so you're saying that this, because I know you're a big Kentucky guy, big guy, you'll die defending this team. So is this a must-win game for them?
It is, yeah, because the Ole Miss, you can stand to lose that game. It's an SEC West opponent. South Carolina, you can't, because South Carolina is going to, most likely, they're going to lose to Tennessee and Florida and Georgia. And Kentucky is going to have a difficult time against Tennessee and Georgia. I know they beat Florida. So this is a really bad loss that takes away their hopes of the SEC championship. So, yes, this is a must-win situation. And Mississippi State always gives the Wildcats an issue. Two more games I want to talk about as we wrap up this segment is number 15, North Carolina State at number 18, Syracuse. The Orange getting back into the rankings for the first time this season. And USC takes on Utah. That's all we have for news on the gridiron for this weekend. Don't worry, baseball fans. We're getting to the MLB playoffs next. This is the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. Thank you for joining us, everyone. This is the last segment, and as the MLB season winds down, this is how we're going to wind down the show by talking about the MLB playoffs. Noah, you said during the break that one of these games was postponed. The Guardians, who were supposed to play the Yankees tonight, is postponed, but the Mariners do still take on the Astros, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And you said that MLB's winding down. Really doesn't feel like that because postseason baseball is completely different from any other kind of baseball. Regular season, it doesn't even compare. So MLB playoffs are just through the roof right now. The Astros won game one against the Mariners in a crazy fashion. They were down so many runs late in the game, and then Yordan Alvarez hits a 3-run walk-off home run, and then that place went electric. There was even a video of a kid in the stands going through 5 emotions. He was crying, he was sad.
I actually saw that.
Yeah, and it was just crazy because regular season, you're not really going to care. Oh, my team lost. Yeah. Oh, okay, whatever. We got tomorrow. We got the next game, whatever. But postseason, it matters. Each game matters. Even if you lose game one, that still matters because if you lose 2 more, your season's over. Mm-hmm. So these teams are still playing for a season, and that Astros-Mariners game was nuts. Julio Rodriguez, he was going off.
That's huge for a rookie to play that way.
Double-triple in a playoff game? That's just insane. And then we got the Guardians and Yankees, and game one really wasn't nothing special in my opinion. The Yankees won it. I think the Yankees, I have them going to the next round anyways, so I don't think the Guardians will put up much of a fight. They might take one or 2 games in Cleveland, but as long as they're in New York, I don't think the Guardians will win a single game.
I want to go back to the atmosphere like you mentioned in the postseason. I watched the game one, or one of the wild card games as the Guardians took on the Rays. And just when the cameras first showed the crowd, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like, it was just, this was in the middle of the afternoon. Kids have school, people work, and yet it's just jam-packed. It's nothing like the regular season.
No, it is nothing like the regular season. And teams, it's so funny because really, baseball is really like a dying sport kind of in today's world. Like, it's more like football's taken over. But when it comes to postseason, that stadium is filled. It will be sold out
awesome.
Every single night. It's crazy. And then some other games we got going on too are the Braves are taking on the Phillies. The Phillies beat them in game 1. That another close one. They were down some runs, and then in the bottom of the 9th inning with 1 out, runners on the corners, Matt Olson steps up to the plate, hits a 3-run bomb, and they're down 7-6. They couldn't rally.
I do recall you being pretty excited about this game.
I was sitting there watching it, waiting for a class to start, and next thing you know, there's a 3-run home run, and the Braves are down by 1, and it's just insane how the postseason is completely different from the regular season. I will keep saying that because it's completely different.
Yeah.
And not just MLB, like October in general for sports. You have the NFL, you have college football, you have the MLB playoffs, the NHL starts back, NBA starts, FC Cincinnati, shout out to them. They made the playoffs. So, like, you have so many sports. So if you're a sports fan, no matter what sport, they're pretty much all there.
Yeah.
And it's just nuts. Like, October is crazy.
On weekends, I turn on the TV. When I get up, I'm like, okay, what do I start with?
Yeah,
What do I start with?
October makes it hard. Like, what sports do I want to watch? It's insane. Last night the Braves did win. I'm so glad they won. Braves are my team. They're my team that I want to win this.
The defending World Series.
Defending champs. I want them to go on. I want them to win it again. I like so many other players. I like their team, and there were so many defensive plays made in that game too. Dansby Swanson made a diving catch. Austin Riley made a kind of a diving catch up against the tarp. That was a good game. Solid game from the Braves. They shut out a playoff team in the playoffs. That's hard to do. And they had the Phillies had Zach Wheeler on the mound, their ace, and they put up 3 runs.
Yeah, and the Phillies just upset the Cardinals in the wild card game, and the Cardinals are a good team.
Yeah, the Phillies just swept the Cardinals, 2 games to none. And the Padres, they won. They beat the Dodgers. Whoever thought about that?
Yeah,
I hope they take him out. I want anybody but the Dodgers in the World Series. I'm sick of LA.
Yeah, there was a press conference that Freddie Freeman did, and he was asked about, are you worried about teams being hot right now? He was like, I mean, that's all postseason. It is getting hot at the right time. He was like, we've been hot all year. I mean, they have. They won over 105 games. Like, they've been on fire the entire year. The Dodgers took game 1. Padres evened it up last night in LA. So now they're traveling. They have today off, and they're traveling to play in San Diego the next 2 days. Well, Friday and Saturday. So
the Padres won last night, and how you perform in the beginning of games is huge. And in game 1, Mike Clevenger, the pitcher for the Padres, gave up a few runs early in the first inning. Well, last night, Manny Machado hit a home run early in the game. So it's kind of shown, there's proof in the pudding right there, that how teams continue that awesome stretch throughout the game.
Yeah, and it's somewhat how you start, but as the Astros proved, it doesn't matter how you start because they were down so many runs, and in the 9th inning, they turned it on. They found something, and they won. So really, it's interesting because the Yankees could be tied if they played today, but they're not, so they play tomorrow, and we won't know if that series is tied. We find out if the Astros and Mariners can tie it up. Both series in the National League, it's tied up, so they still got to play another 2 games, and it's going to be so interesting. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a pitching matchup, offensive matchup, defensive matchup. It's going to be insane.
A lot of great players left in the playoffs, and out of these 4 series, I want to get your predictions for the whole playoffs. So I want to start with the Mariners and Astros. Who do you have taking that series?
Sadly, I have the Astros. I don't want the Astros, but the Astros, they're a completed team. They have the defense, they have the hitting, they have the pitching, and they have the bullpen. So there's no reason they shouldn't win.
And then the Guardians and the Yankees.
Yankees. They're another well-rounded team, and it's kind of going to be scripted because if the Astros win and the Yankees win, they move on to the ALCS. They've already faced off before in the ALCS, and things didn't go right. It was when the Astros were sign stealing. So that's going to be an even great matchup.
And so who do you have out of the Astros and the Yankees heading to the World Series, real quick?
Yankees.
Yankees.
I think I have the Yankees.
Okay.
I never thought I would actually put the Yankees into the World Series because the Yankees in the postseason are kind of rocky. Like, they'll be the great team in the regular season, but once it comes playoff time, it's kind of rocky.
On the other side, the Braves and the Phillies are tied at 1. Who do you have?
This is going to be a good matchup. I think it's going to go to the full 5 games because I think Philly is going to take both they're going to split because they can't take both. So they're going to split in Philly, and they're going to come back to Atlanta, and Atlanta's going to win. I have Atlanta.
So you have the Braves.
This.
And the last one, the Padres and the Dodgers, again tied up at 1. Who do you have?
The Dodgers. They've won so many games. They know what's riding on this. They have an all-star team out there on the field. When you look at it, you have Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner. There's so many. I mean, the Padres, they have an all-star team too.
Yeah.
Manny Machado, Juan Soto. I mean, that's pretty much it. Should be Tatis, but he got suspended.
We don't have much time left, so I want to get who between the Dodgers and the Braves, and then your World Series champs real quick.
Braves, Yankees, Braves repeat.
Braves repeat. So that's a big prediction there. The Braves winning 2 games in a row. We're getting ready to wrap it up. We hope you all enjoyed. Again, we apologize. We're supposed to have the NKU men's head soccer coach on, Tom Poitras, but he was on this time, maybe in the future. So we had college football, NFL, and the MLB Playoffs. Big month for sports. From myself, Josh Kalb, Bryan Bauer, and Noah Miller, this is the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show.